Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to our Spoilercast for 13 Reasons Why Season 2, currently streaming on Netflix. Yeah. All right. So this is, of course, a very hype-worthy show. It's a very controversial show. It's definitely a think piece for many people. So, Dragon, you and I kind of had this roller coaster of an experience with 13 Reasons Why Season 1, where it was where I was going. I'll admit I was watching it when I was going through some hard stuff in my life. So, it shook me pretty hard, Dragon. I remember especially that end episode, the bathtub scene, if you will. And we have kind of a running joke we're going to go over here, folks, where basically if it's the final episode of 13 Reasons Why and there's a bathroom scene, terrible, terrible things will happen.
Yes.
But regardless, season one I felt was kind of an above average teen drama that maybe went a little too far in some places. And then we got to season two, and honestly, season two is like I'm kind of shocked to see the amount of people saying it's not as good as season one, because for me, what season two does really well is it fleshes all the characters out and it makes them more three-dimensional. And I understand like that, as someone who's struggled with depression, Hannah's storyline is going to get to me much more than I would say the main storyline of season two would get to someone else, which would be Jessica's storyline. And I understand that, like, if you're someone who's suffered from sexual abuse, then this season would probably be incredibly tough to watch. Uh, I'm just saying from my own personal experience, I suffered from depression, so that bathtub scene was just like my worst nightmare unfolding before my eyes in a lot of ways. Suffice to say, Dragon, I do really like the momentum of season two. I thought the courtroom stuff was all really good. I mean, it's not like Better Call Saul levels of good or anything, but it's, there's some instances of just like them kind of throwing out the courtroom vernacular, like objection. Like I don't know. There's some instances where it kind of feels a little silly how much they do that kind of stuff. But I gotta say, that's just a nitpick because overall, I feel like all the courtroom stuff is really well captured in terms of being the driving force of the season, the driving force of the drama. I feel like the season was very, very well acted all the way around, like incredible performances by a couple of people. And overall, it wasn't nearly as tough to watch as season one was for me. So I came away with it like it was a really good mystery. I definitely feel like it's a step above the average like teen drama that you would see on like the CW or something like that. And it's got a lot to say, and it's got a lot of interesting subject matter to it. It's not a perfect show by any means, but I definitely am looking forward to kind of jumping into it with you, Dragon. So what were your thoughts on season two?
So, for me, 13 Reasons, um, Season 2, I found it very addicting. That's the thing I could say about the first season. And more, first season's like a pursuit of justice, and this is kind of the follow through on that pursuit of justice. Where it's it's has this great and scary theme of consequence. And honestly, Tiki, not to the same extent by any means, but the way that the first season affected you, season two kind of affected me with a
I
lot
know
of,
we've had this discussion before, yeah.
yeah, again, just the theme of, it's just that theme of consequence and like basically there being a huge emphasis on the aftermath of any choice and basically anything, any like thing in anyone's past being confronted with on the stand. That was kind of the thing like, oh my God, that's yeah, that was probably one of the most investing elements for me in season two. And again, what I was saying earlier, it's an examination of justice this season. And what I really loved in a writing capacity, and really love with the story is I love how it's it's an examination of not just justice, but how a system responds to tragedy. So I really love
Mhm.
the grander implications of season two. That's kind of that's the bigger takeaway. I really like the scope of the ethical scope of season two versus kind of like just the very very simple kind of like we need to learn what happened and we need to kind of we're rooting for Clay. It's very simple first season, good first season, just kind of simple but by no means without fault. And season 2, I thought I had a great framing device with the trial, and of course, Deacon, I was like a no-brainer. We didn't think of like, oh man, I wonder what they're gonna do for season
We all
2.
thought it was going to be like tapes that Tyler would make or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And Deacon, by the way, we should mention Deacon that we did a Christmas pitch
Oh,
for
don't remind them. Please don't remind them.
for 13 reasons. So basically, the point is we had our ideas of like how we had to do some guesstimating as to what season 2 would be about, and we kind of walked the line in places. The point is, in this season though, we had a good framing device of the trial and the Polaroid MacGuffin. I did like how the Polaroids really were in many ways of kind of breaking down the word they were MacGuffin. They were something that were not really important, but by the same token, they kind of threat of them is what ushered our characters in a certain way.
Yeah, they definitely went in a different direction than the tapes, but I think they served, a very similar purpose to the tapes.
Certainly. And of course, really good in the marketing of the thing.
Oh yeah, some really, really dark, addictive trailers for sure.
So I think, of course, it had some really good build. And we developed our characters more. And now, Tiki, you can speak to this more than I, but I think it's kind of some brave new post-book territory because they have to extrapolate.
Oh yeah, there's basically nothing in this season that was from the book at all, from what I remember.
Like nothing's continued or like anything like that was not in the first season they might have reused in this season.
No, not maybe. If anything, maybe some stuff with Justin's family.
Okay.
But other than that, like no, not really.
Right. And I mean, the only elements this season, I really had two nitpicks. They're like it wasn't as bad as in season 1. Like there are all those elements that, again, a lot of it is intentional, getting incensed at people and like, oh man, that's bull. That's bull. Like how those guys would you be able to do like Courtney, particularly. She got her wrath in the first season a lot. I do remember. And again, a lot of that is intentional. By the same token, it's kind of frustrating, and you have like elements of like it's kind of a hard buy the tapes and like how no one would just get to the end or like just start with the end and all that stuff.
Right.
But for me, I had two smaller issues this season that just kind of kept popping up as I was going through the season. One, after what happened in the first season, why are there no teachers in the hallway? Like no one's monitoring the situation.
Yeah, you've told me that. Yeah,
that was my biggest one. And I guess secondly, and this is a minor one, it's just like something you have to read into. In the trial, the school's defense is very well armed with information. We never show or reference how they get all this information. We just have to assume they're doing really thorough interviews with all the students.
They're crack legal team, Dragon.
I know. It's a small. Again, you can read into it. So it's a much smaller kind of nitpick. But again, that one thing. Seriously, no teachers in the hallway after all the scrutiny and all the fear of like, no, we don't talk about certain things.
Well, you know what's ridiculous is that it's kind of like they double down on not helping the students.
Yeah, because they're afraid to do anything.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Anyway, so season 2, it's amazing how the critics, again, I think the audiences will be kinder to season 2, but the critics are really rough against season 2.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet it's because of probably the lack of focus in season 2 compared to season 1, where season 1 was driven by one specific thing, and season 2 was kind of trying to tackle a bunch of issues.
Right. I'll admit we'll get to it when we get to certain characters. But let's say there are a few plot lines that probably could have been trimmed or simplified. But again, on the whole, I really do enjoy season 2.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, especially towards the end, it very much mirrors that build and drive up that season 1 had of like, your hearts in your stomach. You're just waiting for something terrible to happen, and it really delivers in that regard. For better or worse.
Big time.
All right, so let's, speaking of that, let's not even bury the lead, Dragon. Let's get to probably the biggest, most controversial character of the season, Tyler Downs.
By the way, folks, a little fun fact. I mean, with the exception of characters who weren't kind of inserted naturally into our kind of our main narrative framing device, we are pretty much going through this chronologically as they enter the stand in the episode. So it's a little fun fact there for you.
All right. So, Dragon, I freaking love the Tyler storyline this season. I don't really care what anyone says about that end scene. I think the end scene is kind of look, I went through some pretty severe bullying in middle school. Not this severe, all right, but definitely to the point of like really kind of like a more mental torture, shall we say, what I went through. So Tyler is the type of character where it's just so damn tragic, kind of like the build up where you feel like, once he's hanging out with Cyrus and everything, and we're getting into kind of like the anarchy of it all. We feel like there's going to be a snappy point with him, but then the turnaround happens, and the turnaround is like the most tragic thing about his character, because once he comes back to school in that final episode, you get the sense that he is genuinely a better person. He's been changed for the better.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the funny thing is though, is that Tyler's story is probably the most pivotal storyline of season 2, and definitely the most tragic one. And a lot of the stuff I love most about season 2 is about kind of holding a mirror up to the system and kind of the faults in the system. We do all of that through Tyler Down. And again, going into this season, I thought we were like, again, in terms of framing device, my big kind of prediction was that we might start with like a school shooting, then kind of see the lead up to it as the season.
That's probably going to be how season 3 unfolds, really.
Well, quite possibly, again, but we're not entirely sure for a very interesting reason at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see, let's break it. Let's backtrack. Let's build to the big Tyler stuff.
Sure.
So I think it's interesting that Tyler, again, with the whole testifying thing, and kind of how we're breaking these down here. I love that Down was the only one willing to testify in hopes of changing the system. We see at the beginning here,
he sets a precedent that none of the other students live up to, you know what I mean? And for that, he's once again ostracized throughout the season in a very different kind of way.
Yeah, and the tragedy, really, I think the tragedy is that Tyler, he tries to go through the proper channels, and yet he's let down time and time again. Again, in going through these proper channels, they tear his character to pieces, and the whole like, oh yeah, you're taking pictures of everybody, and they get all the pictures. Like, was she ever happy? Again, they're tearing down his case, and again, in going through all those proper channels, I think one of the most heartbreaking scenes for me is that. And again, this is something I've always believed about kind of the school system and the kind of all the rule policy without getting too into politics. But I think what's always been Tyler is, he's bullied, and in the end, like the principal sends him to the anger management camp.
Oh, Dragon! Let's just say, without getting into personal details, that's something I very much related to.
And my point is the fact that in the flawed system, it's that. If basically, as he says, you're punishing me, where it says, no, it's not punishment, where of course it really is like, they're taking the problem element out of the situation, and it's sort of that whole, it's sort of like the whole fighting policy, which I always hated,
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So again, I love that we didn't kind of go. I love that we didn't go through this season the way I was kind of speculating we were, because I love that we get to see a guy who tried walking the straight and narrow, and again, he gave the school a second chance, and like, okay, you can repair yourself, and basically we explore him in a more sympathetic and tragic light. So again, it makes you identify more with the story, and it's like we're not, it builds to that school shooter payoff, and we're building and forming it all into place, because we knew he had the weapon, so we knew he was on a tipping point. And again, I love the evolution in that story where with Clay, I thought Clay was on was going to be on the target list, but no, in the end, he kind of forgave and kind of forgiving and forgetting what Clay did to him, and because of all the other stuff that's been happening to him.
Yeah, definitely one of the big things about Tyler that I appreciated was the Cyrus character. I really like Cyrus, and I think that Cyrus was a really well-written distraction. He's kind of like he's almost like a really, really good red herring, if you will.
He's a perfect red herring because Cyrus he's kind of our Columbine. He's kind of our Columbine bait and switch, where you think, okay, so Cyrus is gonna basically put and in a sense he does put the anti-establishment bug in Down's head.
He does, but at the same time, it's like you can see you can see at the end of the day that this kid is just like, he's kind of like more just like trying to forge an identity for himself in high school, and it's not really working out that well. Whereas with Tyler's taking it all to heart in a very dark kind of way. And the two of them just kind of go on these different converging path lines with each other that leads in a very destructive kind of falling out.
Yeah, like Cyrus and his sister Mackenzie, they're friendly nonconformists, and they do provide friendship to Tyler. Yet again, they're all talk. They're nice kids. They're kind of like the Steven Universe parable. It's kind of like the popular kids who have a presumption about like, oh my god, they're so nice.
Right.
And basically, Tyler unintentionally is exposed to what they are on a surface level, which again corrupts. Basically, he's corrupted by the surface level interest of like the whole punk culture, vandalism, and going to the gun range, which was a huge mistake.
Oh yeah.
So again, it's heartbreaking and true to life. There was a moment with Tyler's story that really broke my heart, and it was like one of those things. Like in the first season, I'd probably like rant against, but now having seen getting a sense of where they're going with the story this season, it was like my heart was breaking, and knowing where again we might lead Down's character, where he's dating. I love how he dates Mackenzie. I like that relationship,
and that was another kind of red herring where I felt like as soon as that started happening, I was like, oh god, I've got to this is probably where the bad stuff with Cyrus is going to go down. But at the end of the day, yeah, it was kind of a breaking point with Cyrus, but not in the way we expected, because Cyrus wasn't like jealous or overprotective or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and. With Mackenzie though, I mean, there's that heartbreaking moment where he has to. I guess he's at like the punk club or something. He's in that club, and basically he shoots her down to save face. And again, she's being really open and really respectful of him. And again, he just shoots her down to kind of basically he acts sort of like the jocks for a scene, and that really torpedoes what happens with him, and he gets bullied in a really insulting and horrific way. And it's kind of two things. It's kind of the Hannah cycle continued, where it kind of plays on the kind of the vulnerability of the sexual development period.
Oh yeah.
Where again, Hannah, it's basically when she was like experiencing things for the first time, and in doing so, she opened herself up to a lot of hassle. And of course, Tyler did the same thing when he was really vulnerable with that girl. And again, the girl was asking a friend, and that friend gossiped, and there was that suntan lotion bill, which is, oh god, that's so horrible.
That was definitely a true to life kind of bullying moment. One of those things where it's like one event just gets like way blown out of proportion, and it really just becomes like an identifying factor for your whole existence in high school.
And again, that foreshadow with that moment was like a big moment for season 2 of like when it all comes into focus. Where okay, now we're basically the path has been forged for him. And of course, after he comes back, and the note for me, and again, there was a Columbine parable that they really did work into the season intentionally. I love that they did that. And for me, I love to have these little clues that tip you off to. So when he comes back from the anger retreat, from the counseling retreat, he has his hair cut, kind of like a bowl cut, or like some sort of crew cut, whatever.
Right.
And in doing that, it looked identical to the Columbine kids. Like one of them had that hairstyle, and it's like it's all forming into place. And that's when I guess we should really dive into it now. Let's talk about the bathroom scene.
Ooh, okay. I mean, Dragon, I don't think I had as visceral of a reaction to it as you did. Like I said, I think the bathroom scene from season 1 was more of a visceral, like I just wanted to throw up after I saw that scene. But with this, I gotta say, I honestly kind of respect it, because it's very bold, it's very dark, it is very visceral, but at the end of the day, it kind of just goes to show, like, first of all, I respect that it's like, the male on male rape.
Exactly,
like
which you really don't see that.
Never gets addressed.
Yeah.
And I really respect that they went, in order to portray something like that, and something that a lot of people don't validate, frankly. Like if you're raped as a male, you're kind of just like, oh, well, you know what I mean? Like
you're seen as weak.
Exactly. And so with that in mind, I feel like the scene was incredibly effective in just opening up the dialogue of like, okay, not only do these things happen, but the victims of it are just as traumatized, just as broken as anyone else who would go through something like this.
Absolutely, and again, for me, in the execution of it, it's so surprising and brutal. And again, what really
I mean,
struck
like
me,
right when Montgomery like slams his head on the sink, I'm already like, oh god, this is horrific. You know what I mean? Like before anything else even goes down.
a part of me, honestly, as the scene was going on, I thought they might accidentally drown him in the toilet. I really thought it might, for a moment, it might have gone there.
Uh-huh.
But again, it gets far worse than that even. But again, what really rung true with me, and again, the thing that was my big kind of avatar for the whole season was again like the tragedy of a broken system, which we see unfold in that heartbreaking moment where he goes through all the proper channels you're instructed to. Where he tries like I did something bad, I like to make it right with you, and he's being very again he's courteous. And he's basically it's like the old guidance counselor model. It's like the old like you fill in the blank like one of those conflict resolution things.
Mhm.
And again, just seeing it fail, but again, he's trying so hard, and again, it's like he's clinging to that thing, even though I just got a sense they were trying to strip away his identity when they sent him to that place. Again, I'm not going to cast any dispersion. I'm just saying I got a bad omen from the place. But regardless, again, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. It went tremendously even worse, where it did work. And again, then of course he's violated with the mob.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the way, and again, the way it's shot unforgivingly true to life, and it's just, and honestly, look, folks, the parable again, folks, like I'm sure there's going to be a warning. It's 13 reasons why season 2. And again, this season, because of the backlash of the first season, they had all the warnings.
This is definitely the big breaking point, I think, for a lot of people.
Or a lot of people think it's like it's overkill, or it's like they're trying to match the shock factor of the first thing. Which again, it's not shock. I think Tegan and I make the argument that it's not shock factor. It's something that's not talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Going honestly, and again for me, the moment that again I think symbolically is that they keep again pardon this, folks, but it's what happens. They keep pushing and pushing, and in the way they keep pushing and pushing, that's kind of the symbol of the bullying. Where again, you push and you push until you do irreparable damage, which physically happens as well as emotionally and kind of I guess symbolically happens.
Yeah.
So again so then after that, so here's where the season really grabbed me. So after that moment happens, I'm so fascinated by how we examine kind of the moral gray by building Tyler's goal as we've done this whole season. After that moment, it puts you in a position where, okay, you've seen where Tyler's going, you've seen all the stuff he has at his disposal. So now, basically, if you were in if you had the means and if you had gone through his experience with nothing held back, as in you have nothing to lose, you've lost everything, it puts you more in that character's shoes than you had been the whole season, and it plays into what the first season had going for it to an extent, where it's like a lust for justice, and in this case, it's a lust for revenge. It's like, wouldn't you want revenge if you had?
Which honestly, Dragon, that is kind of like the dangerous thing, right?
Yeah.
Is kind of like putting the audience who are watching the show into that mindset. Like it's both the thing that captivates us as a viewing audience, but also the thing that could be rather damaging if the show falls into the wrong hands.
Exactly, and again, I think they showed the kind of the terror of it. I would say it's not glorified, but that's what people will make the argument of that it's glorified.
The reason why season 1 kind of got under my skin a little bit is that I did feel like the suicide thing was glorified a little bit, but with the school shooter thing, I definitely think they toned down the glorification of that, and instead they really showed it for like the ugly, harsh thing that it was, and the fact that it was kind of like a no turning back kind of point.
Exactly. Now, let me real quick just with that. I would say the only reason the first season at that moment, basically, first, I think the main reason that could be read as glorified is because we build to it. I think that's the only reason that could be seen as being glorified, because again, it's
I don't want to get into a whole discussion about this, but like
right.
For me, there were definitely just things about her motivations in general, which honestly I like that season 2 addresses, and we'll talk about that when
sure. So
yeah.
All right,
So
okay, we'll get to that.
Okay.
All right. So the last thing, I guess, is that the last brief thing I want to say down is that I love that we build to this moment where, again, we invest the audience and we get them to this twisted, relatable place of wanting revenge after something horrible like has happened to you. And again, we're in a place today, and as we saw in kind of our courtroom story, that justice is not easy to obtain. And if justice is obtained, it's not going to be in a satisfying capacity a lot of the time. And again, it would seem, nothing held back. There's nothing to stop him going forward. But he chose not to take, his moment of change in the end. Which I'm trying to think if. Well, I guess he took a moment. He took the moment of change from his current course, I guess.
Okay, well, here's the thing, Dragon. The way I see it with his situation, there were two diverging paths. There was the path where he could have taken the broom, the mop, with his blood all over it. Obviously, I feel like that mop would have had Montgomery's fingerprints all over it as well. He could have gone the courageous route and really put an end to this stuff because he had the physical evidence to do it. But obviously, that would have exposed his wounds. That would have exposed exactly the incident that happened to him. It would have been a big story. So I feel like that was kind of. Do you see what I'm getting at, Dragon? Like there was an opportunity for him to fix things, but it would have implied that he would have had to go public with what happened to him.
Sure. So I guess so he didn't take his moment of change then.
Yeah. That's the way I see it. Right, so because he was already heading towards the school shooter thing. So that's not a change. You know what I mean? He's already on that path.
Right, and by the end, he's now flirting with again, he's in a position of it again. Optimistically, he'll be heading on a moment of change. Of course, correct to do the original mock plan, perhaps. So again, not obviously with the piece of evidence no longer being viable, but getting in that the direction of healing. Versus the direction of just kind of spreading said pain. Okay, so I think it's pretty good.
Okay, so let's talk about probably one of the more improved characters from season 2. Let's talk about Courtney.
Yeah, she's a little more likable this time around.
She doesn't have a lot to do. That's my only problem, is that she basically just has the one episode, and then she kind of falls off the face of the earth for the most part.
Honestly, I think that's intentional. I think we just don't have a lot to do with Courtney at the end of the day, because again, the first season did the whole she's kind of the unlikable mouthpiece for a lot of it. And
the first season, her character assassination was fierce in the first season, Dragon.
Hey, but that's all I'll say. You're right, and I don't disagree with you, absolutely. And I like here, we see her cool dads. She has some really cool.
Well, she has the first really heroic moment on the stand. Tyler has the moment of kind of telling the truth, but her moment on the stands is truly a heroic one. It truly is one that kind of saves face with Hannah and gets Hannah out of a bad spot.
Yeah, she doesn't throw Hannah under the bus at the cost of coming out on the stand.
Mm-hmm. So, Dragon, I feel like that's. I think you're right. That's kind of everything we need to kind of redeem the character, and after that, there's not really a ton to do.
Exactly. The only two things that we get from Courtney this season in our grand story is that she's used as a device to set up Sonia, the school's defense attorney, set up Sonia's ferocity, and we said, we established the stakes early on, what this lawyer is going to be able to do to these kids on the stand. Mm-hmm. And the only other thing with Courtney is that I like we did improve her vastly from the first season. However, that fire alarm bit still feels a little pointed to me. Of it's that's really the best line we can come up with.
Okay, well, can I just say I just think that whole scene was probably the most ridiculous scene in all of season 2. That whole fight breaking out, I don't know. To me, it felt really out of place.
A little. I think they just wanted an excuse for Porter to hit the coach. I think it's the only reason they wanted that. But I'll admit, that whole scene is kind of a buy, because again, you think they would have more logic. Let's just all gang up on Bryce. Let's just all.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so let's get to Jessica.
Yes. So Jessica Davis. Let's see. I was worried. I had a big fear, and some of it was realized. A lot of it wasn't, though. Jessica Davis, she's important to this. I'm sorry. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I would say she has the heaviest storyline of the season, apart from maybe Tyler. But in that regard, I definitely think that she's got a really good arc this time around. She's got a really good journey that she goes on, and I feel like it's important to kind of paint a sexual abuse survivor in this light as a strong person who's trying to go on with their life, who's, not letting what happened to her define her in any means, but still, of course, has trauma about the situation. I don't know, Dragon. Like I said, Obviously, I'm not the victim of sexual abuse. If I was a victim of sexual abuse, there's no question I would probably find the storyline a lot more like, either they're going too far or they're not going far enough. I don't know. I have no real world context for that. But as someone who's just kind of watching the show vanilla style, I thought they did it tastefully enough on my end.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I don't think we really dropped any major balls with Jessica. I just feel that I was worried her story going this season. I was worried her story may get a little repetitive, and I think it walks a line of not being too repetitive. By the same token, I think some of her stuff in her story could be edited out.
Okay.
So I mean, I love her parents, by the way. I love her father. Her father's great. I love how we use him. The parents are very supportive. But again, we recycle a lot of her story, though. And again, I know it's true life, so that's why by the same token, I can't really take a lot of points away. But I mean, stuff like basically like her and her friend on the track team, and like her meeting that guy that really we don't do anything with.
Okay, that was completely unnecessary. I'll agree with you there.
And I get what they're going for.
That guy was in maybe 3 scenes.
Like, I don't know. I think they dragged him out for scenes, but through a couple episodes.
Yeah.
and look, I get what they're going for, and that's why I can't really be mad. That's why I say it walks a line, because look, I've listened to Jamie Walton, who talks. She has a podcast, and she does. She's been on Fat Men on Batman. She runs the Wayne Foundation charity for sexually abused, women who have been girls who have been sex trafficked. And again, there's a lot of. I know it's point is sexually abused women. That's my point. So I've heard like some things on the behavior and the patterns and such, and basically the trouble in recovery, and basically the trouble in kind of bouncing back from that. And it's a tough road, to say the least. And a lot of this stuff, she goes through the whole. She's trying to meet another guy, but of course facing the trauma that she has since that violation, and piecing together said violation, remembering certain details, all that stuff is on the money. But again, we go a little repetitive with it in places. And again, in the end, story-wise, not a whole lot of payoff with it until, again, Justin re-enters the fray.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I definitely think with a little editing, her storyline would have been more effective. I just think what we do with her and the journey that she goes on, overall, it's a satisfying one. So I have nothing against what we do with Jessica this season.
Again, that's the only nitpick I have with Jessica. But let's talk about someone who was very much paired with Jessica this season.
Sure. Let's talk about Chloe. And then also, Dragon, do you want to talk about Nina as well? We never really brought up Nina.
Well, I mentioned, that's the Trek. That's the friend from Trek, right?
Yeah, but just overall, the one thing I want to bring up with Nina is I thought she was a good character. I'm a little mixed on the reveal with her at the end.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's just that feels like we need to type the MacGuffin, so we needed someone to do it, and just like she would make oh yeah, we didn't suspect her because she wasn't really a main fixture this season.
Exactly, and it also I kind of feel like that would be one of those things where. It's almost a bit of a slap in the face to what we were trying to accomplish this season, because those pictures would have, probably been the nail in the coffin in Bryce's case in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, again, there's, look, I know there's like an ethical argument about all those pictures are absolutely viable evidence for cases that people could use, but by the same token that Jessica brings up, those aren't your stories to tell.
And sure.
And I feel Nina, she kind of took an extra step there where she shouldn't have, those are their stories to tell. But by the same token, you've kind of boxed their chances to verify their stories if they want. What are you doing, Nina?
Exactly. That's exactly the response I had to it. It's like, yeah, it's like emotionally justifiable, but, not really a sound choice overall.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chloe was actually someone who is getting a lot of hate this season, Dragon, and I'm not going to say for bad reason, but I'm just going to say, I'm going to defend the character because I think it's a very real-world depiction of what someone in an abusive relationship goes through.
I'll tell you what I think. I think I know why Chloe's getting a lot of hate. I think it's the beginning, what we do with her.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I think the beginning, what we do with her, we kind of make her kind of antagonist. Well, kind of like surface level antagonistic with Jessica, where she's trying to be nicey nice, and she's basically she's undermining what Jessica's doing with the whole like, oh yeah, that's that thing that you got drunk at a party one night, huh? Like, all that stuff, and of course she's working with an agenda that we kind of revealed towards the end. Basically, in that latter half, basically when we see Chloe meet Bryce's parents, that's where Chloe really starts to become interesting. And Chloe is kind of I love that Chloe though with her character. I love that she's Jessica's challenge to overcome and reach this season. That she has to overcome, someone really doubting and spreading seeds of doubt about her. By the same token, she has to kind of take a lot of this from Chloe, and she has to in the end reach her. And basically, in reaching Chloe, she can reach herself and try to kind of get some justice. And of course, in the end. Jessica, the heartbreaking thing about Jessica's story this season is that she has a very unsatisfying ending. I mean, for what happens.
You know what? That's the thing, though, Dragon. I feel like some people would say that she has a very unsatisfying ending, but I think her ending is very satisfying.
Well, no, I mean satisfying for the audience. I mean unsatisfying for her personally.
No, I actually think it is satisfying for her personally.
Oh. Okay.
Because she even mentions herself that, just getting the courage to testify was enough for her to move on. So I feel like the thing with Bryce, it's like, yeah, it's messed up, but it's very true to life. And I feel like if the show would have gone the route of like, oh, well, Bryce is getting a life sentence here, folks. He's never going to be seen from again. I know, Dragon, that wouldn't have been genuine to the reality of the show that it's trying to craft.
It would have been too crowd pleasing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, so I think the show definitely got a happy medium there where, Jessica was able to testify. She was able to tell her story. By the way, the telling your story thing is kind of a theme that runs through the season, which I appreciate.
Sure.
And she was able to do what Chloe wasn't, and that's where I kind of see what you're coming from with the Chloe being a counterpoint to Jessica in a lot of ways, because Chloe was someone who got on the stand and couldn't look Bryce in the eyes and talk against him, whereas Jessica was all too happy to do that.
And with Chloe, of course, we have a big bombshell drop with Chloe at the end of the season that it's going to be really interesting going if we do season 3.
I think that's the way we get Bryce back in season 3 is through that storyline.
And again, it's so poetic that we have this reminder, like a reminder of the danger of Bryce Walker, and if you have a rapist going around there, of course, you may have women who are with child, which is very horrifying. Mm-hmm. And again, she has a really good sobering story with that. And again, like she is the reminder of again, the whole season's about consequence, and we definitely have that with Tyler and with so many other characters being Chloe. Again, is a huge visual. She's going to be a visual symbol of consequence going forward too.
Oh yeah.
Also, real quick with Jessica, I just wanted to read this thing to kind of prime our other two characters who are associated with Jessica when we get to them. I like that Alex and Justin. I read it that she's kind of drawn to broken people like herself. She sees herself as broken, therefore she's drawn to other broken characters, as we see with Alex, and especially as we see with Justin.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of okay. So Jessica, secret key to everything.
All right, Dragon. Now let's get to probably the most loathed character of the whole show. Let's get to really mean Steve.
Yes. Okay. In all seriousness, really mean Steve.
Well, we need to explain really mean Steve, Dragon.
Okay, so if anyone's seen the movie Chronicle,
God.
Okay, seriously, we do enjoy the movie Chronicle, and Chronicle has the delightful Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael B. Jordan, he plays Steve. And Steve, he's a nice guy. He's the antithesis of Marcus. And, he's like the class president, all the stuff that Marcus is and kind of what Marcus is going for in the school. And basically, it's like just a really mean version of him. He's kind of settled on. I don't know. It's just kind of happened that way.
So the gag is basically that if Steve Montgomery from Chronicle turned into Two-Face, then Marcus Cole from 13 Reasons Why would essentially be the really mean Steve, kind of the equivalent to the big bad harp, if you will.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so Marcus Cole, in all seriousness.
This guy is just the worst.
You know what he is to me, and I just had this when I was watching season. I don't know if it was just because I was kind of coasting on really mean Steve Humes or not. I don't know, but here's the thing, Marcus. He's like this weasel faced political dirtbag. That's kind of the way I could summarize this.
Pretty much, pretty
Weaselly
much.
face. I just want to punch sometimes, just.
I mean, he goes in, he does some destructive stuff for the trial, and then he kind of just leaves the season. There's really not much to him.
Yeah, I mean, I like what we do around. I love seeing his home life, though. That was the most interesting thing.
I agree. That is the most interesting part of his character, and also what you were speaking to earlier, Dragon, about the whole idea of the consequences. And I feel like in all seriousness, Marcus, he is one of the characters who's most worried about the consequences of his actions and kind of the legacy and kind of like the like what this is going to do to his reputation. So I do like that we explore those themes through him.
Yeah, very much throughout the season he's saving his own hide. But with his home life, I love that we see him. I thought this was so pivotal with his character. At least this is my read on. If you had different read, by all means, let me know. I saw it that his father is a good politician and a good guy. He's a good man who was very no pressure about everything. He had faith in his son. He's just like, hey, look, it's fine. If you need to tell me something, tell me something. Again, he seemed to was going to be really, he would roll with it, whatever Marcus told him. But Marcus showed he kept putting everything onto himself that he really didn't need to, and it's going to ruin your campaign. Therefore, he felt he needed to lie on the stand. And the one thing I was really thinking about this whole season, especially with Marcus onward, was perjury charges. And I still never looked into how many years you get for a perjury charge. What if Marcus got?
Well, of course, Marcus isn't the only one to lie on the stands. We'll get into that.
True. However, we get into a really interesting, kind of fun, interesting conversation with that other character, though.
Sure.
Right. So he turns on Bryce to save his own hide after being called out on his hypocrisy. So again, he does kind of take a moment of change, but again, a moment of change purely out of selfish reasons.
Yeah, and not without dragging Hannah's name through the mud in the process.
Scumbag.
All right, so let's get to Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan should go by relatively fast. I mean,
I would imagine so. I mean, Dragon, I really hope in season 3 we get more screen time for this guy because he is a fun presence on the show.
Here's the thing. I mean, he's not bad. I don't gravitate towards him. It just feels like he was the extra episode in 13 Reasons Why. We're like, we really need Ryan Schaefer. I mean, yeah, he did something bad. He's just come on.
I think his joke is he is the one person who legitimately I published a poem. You know what I mean? It's there's not something that is not something that would put him away in a court of law by any means.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, what he really read as in the first season, and I don't mean to just bag on Ryan Schaefer here. I'm sorry. It's the one thing though in the first season, he was really just the voice we had on kind of the team of all kind of the. I'm thinking of the. I was thinking of a Goonies reference, but I think I forgot. The point is, no, it was it. That was the reference. Anyway, the point is, Shaver, he just felt like we needed that voice amongst the secret 13 Reasons tape club here. We just needed that one kid to call out Courtney on all of her hypocrisy. Oh yeah, right, because you can't come out. You can't come out. You're gonna really bag on everybody else and ram a dead girl's reputation to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, he's mainly an accessory to the Tony reveal. That's really what his role was this season. It was a good reveal. It's just that's really what he mainly felt like this season.
Yeah, I don't really. You're right. He absolutely kind of much like in season 1, he was just kind of there as an accessory to Hannah's story. And this one, he's just kind of I'm just going to push Tony's story along a little bit. Just going to nudge it in the right direction, right there.
There's only one other nice thing that we did with Ryan this season, though. I love that. I like that we had him sharing Hannah's writing with Olivia. I love what we do with Olivia this season. I love that we kind of had.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because Ryan does have a really nice relationship with Olivia, just overall.
I mean, I love all of Olivia's dynamics this season with a lot of these characters. I really love that we expanded upon. I know it was a no-brainer, but I love how we expanded upon Olivia and logically what her reactions would be to these kids, especially on the stand.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite interactions is when Olivia is talking about taking going to New York and fulfilling Hannah's dream, and Ryan's talking about traveling.
So he definitely plants the seed for a big ending in Olivia's story. So that's important.
Oh yeah.
I guess sorry, real quick, last thing is at the school, and basically in the school's case, the Sonia, she I think the main reason for Ryan is that it shows that the school is like directing blame onto other people, like through Ryan. Even though Ryan, again, he can't really go away for his writing, he was being article or anything. Is that basically could have done more argument? They really thrust a lot of that onto him to divert from them.
Uh, okay, let's see. Now let's get into some of the meatier characters. Let's get into Zach Dempsey.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that Zach might be the MVP of the season?
Yes, I love Ross Butler. Is such a good actor. I love him in this season.
I mean, just right from the get go, when he's like, offering to carry Alex's backpack for him, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm in love with this guy. I'm so glad that he's back.
Yeah, he's going to be in the Captain Marvel movie. In the Shazam movie coming up. Whereas the old Shazam's original name was Captain Marvel. I know we have a Captain Marvel coming. That's just confusing. The point.
Yeah, Dragon, you got me excited because Captain Marvel has a lot of potential to be a really good movie.
No, but seriously, don't count Shazam out. Shazam actually could be
like I've counted Shazam out.
Trust me, it actually could be a lot better than
it's DC. It's DC.
All right. The point is, Ross Butler is going to be in a a superhero movie. It gets me a little excited to see more of him there. So hey, okay. So yeah, so he did an excellent job this season. Zach, he's this good, remorseful guy, and even in the first season, he did something not so good, but he felt remorse for it. And Zach was always like never a lost cause in 13. Always like a character full of potential. We really saw that potential this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, probably the biggest reveal with Zach was the Xana of it all.
God, they're calling it Xana. I keep thinking of Code Lyoko when you say Xana.
That's what they're calling it, yes.
Let's see.
I thought that Xana was absolutely freaking adorable.
I second that opinion, yes.
Like, especially like how nervous Zach is the first time they have sex. I don't know, it's just like, I love how it frames, like, it really, I feel like that relationship is one of the few things where we put a positive note on Hannah's life, you know what I mean? Like, where this was a period of time where she was being sexually active, but it was one of the best times of her life, so I like that. I like that it kind of contrasts, it does, like, it kind of goes the other way, like, it does show that, like, you can have relationships when you're young and they can be really positive. It's not just all doom and gloom all the time.
Yes, and I love that it was, Clay was gone for the summer, and, he was like the only decent guy who tried to make things right. He tried to make things up to Hannah after, he kind of shafted her with the note. And he's made a genuine attempt to apologize, and she kind of saw that, and that's what kind of kicked off their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it was so. I agree with you 100%. I mean, Zach, he was that breath of fresh air this season. And again, I love that we see. I love the one difference. If someone had told me what they were going to do with Zach this season, I don't know if I'd believe him, because again, I like Zach. But at the same time, I don't know if I'd like him as much as I liked Clay. In the first season, this season, it's kind of in like this whole secret relationship with Hannah, because you got to admit that might be a buy if you told someone that.
Sure.
But I love that the one delineating factor between why things didn't work out with Zach and why things, of course, he ultimately fell to Clay is that I love that cowardice made him alienate Hannah. And again, this is a big foreshadow for Tyler, what he does with Mackenzie. This is a huge, important, I love all these little nuggets that do feed into our big overall kind of arc.
I like how the whole character, all the characters in this show kind of flow together like a spreadsheet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, of course, Bryce. He's kind of, what Zach is like. Zach is kind of the conscience that Bryce constantly ignores at every turn. Like if Bryce listened to Zach, he might be in better shape.
The awesome thing about Bryce is that Bryce, we do see, has a conscience. He just doesn't listen to it.
Yes.
We'll get more into that later, but props to Justin Prentice.
And Zach is a delightful middle ground, I think, character-wise. He's a delightful middle ground between Clay and Bryce. I think he's slap dab in the middle, if not right next to Justin, perhaps. He's Justin's far more in Bryce's corners. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I would say Justin is more in Bryce's corner in season 2.
Well, you're right. In season 2, I'm thinking season 1 with that. But you know what I mean? I'm saying if there was a like if there's like a whole number, like a whole line of
Sure,
evolutionary
sure,
line,
sure.
it'd be hard to say. The point is, we did get a great detail, Zach. We got to talk about real quick. I love that we see his home life and his mother. We knew he had a really interesting relationship with his mother, where his mother was like, he's a very abiding son. I love how nice he's such a nice lad. Where he's been told like to watch out for a little Alex Standall, and he has a little sister, and he's very protective of her, and he's very honor bound. I love that we read into this and we reveal, and a big reason that he and Hannah really continued their relationship is that Zach lost his father, and his mother emotionally denies herself. She's in emotional denial, and she won't process the loss, and she won't talk about it with Zach. And again, he's kind of his emotional anchor is Hannah in many respects.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I guess unless you have anything else to say about Zach, we love Zach here, folks. I don't know what to say.
Well, I mean, I think we can just transition from Zach to Alex. It's a very easy transition because these two were like the couple of the season, Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, if it came out tomorrow that the show intentionally wrote them as a gay couple, like under the surface, I would be totally fine with it because it's just like it's the most adorable way possible to do something like that. And even if it's just a bromance, it's a great bromance.
It's definitely a bromance at the very least. So,
yeah.
I mean, I love that we have real for Alex. Let's talk about Alex for a minute. So Alex, he was kind of in this odd space in the first season where he was good, but by the same time, he really kind of fell out of things as it went on.
The one thing I didn't like about Alex this season, I like the whole. He's definitely one of the people who's trying the hardest to make things right with Hannah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wasn't crazy about the amnesia storyline.
You know what's funny? I swear to you, I wrote my notes. They would have been better in Spider-Man 3. I really think they did the memory issue thing better than Spider-Man 3. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's better than Spider-Man 3. I don't like I just think it's a lazy trope in general, though.
I mean, I think the reveal. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, Tig. I mean, I don't think we knew this in season 1 because we see like these brief flashes, like him and Montgomery, or like Alex talking to somebody and like saying, he knew something, and I don't think we knew what we reveal here. But then again, I might be not remembering.
No. This is a new reveal for season 2. Yeah.
Because of that, Tig, I think that saves the amnesia. If they didn't have that, it would have been trite. It would have been hard to buy. I think because we reveal something really big, and I love that. Again, all of it is a symptom of something really cool that we do with Alex this season. Alex is a visual symbol of aftermath this season, of consequence and aftermath, and he's a what if Hannah had lived. I thought that was really interesting. So I love character-wise the strides that we take with Alex. And Alex wasn't bad. It's just the character looking for punishment for again. But now we know why he was looking for punishment in the first. And this is the choices I think we made with Alex this season, and with the amnesia plot, perhaps more so just on the whole with him. I think we retroactively made his storyline a little better in the first season. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like I said, I think most of the stuff with Alex this season that I really liked was the Zach and Alex stuff. So I don't have a ton to say about him outside of that.
Now, let me ask you this, Deacon. I'm kind of dying to hear your thoughts on this because I read into this. I'm not sure if I'm just crazy or not. I wonder if Alex trying to kill himself last season, shooting himself in the head. I wonder if that's because of his guilt over having witnessed what happened to Jessica.
Could be.
That's the way I read. I read that might be the why. And again, he's looking for a why. He wants to kind of get his memories back. I think that's him finding out what happened, or why he tried to do it.
Yeah, I think you're on the money there.
And now also with the Zach Bond, real quick, and the infamous, it's funny, but again, it's the locker room scene where basically Alex is in working order again. That was a big thing with him. But what I love with that storyline and the parallel wise, I love that's the parallel to Tyler's story of kind of sexual discovery.
Yeah.
Alex having kind of a sexual hesitancy, let's say, where again his body is kind of giving him some trouble, and ultimately he works through that. But again, it's a good little setup for Tyler.
Yeah, and again, I like how the show kind of contrasts the good and bad qualities of going through something like that.
Sure. Honestly, there's only one thing I wasn't crazy about Alex this season. I didn't like the birthday party. Was kind of a cringy scene.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it.
I was rooting for him and Jessica, by the way. I was rooting for those two.
I kind of didn't like that they threw away the Jessica thing at the very end.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
But I mean, I guess that's true to life. We'll see how it goes. It's definitely part of the cliffhanger of the season. So, all
Okay,
right, so let's get to our main man.
yes, Clay Jensen, folks, played by the wonderful Dylan Minnette. Yes.
Yeah, and Manette is just really on point this season. He's really on fire. I mean, I love just there's so many moments in the season with Clay that you just want to go up to him and give him a hug and reassure him that it's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Of course, it's kind of what we built to this season.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Don't ruin my analogy here.
I'm saying it's an excellent analogy. That's what I'm saying. It's great.
Nah, yeah, I know. That hug at the very end is definitely the probably my favorite moment of the whole season for me. Might be my favorite moment of the whole show. Because it's just such an emotionally cathartic moment. You know what I mean? It's like we've sat through, we sat through 26 hours of sheer darkness to get to that point. It's kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel in a way.
Yeah, I mean, Clay's definitely grieving this season. Again, he was kind of, it was a grieving slash discovery process in the first season. He was working through grieving through discovery, and this season's all about really kind of. There's a lot of interesting stuff to break down, Clay. I'm just trying to make sure. Right. He's basically. I found it that Clay's grieving in his own way of grieving is continuing this mission of getting justice for Hannah. That's what he thinks his way of grieving is, and it's a temporary distraction at the end of the day. That's what it really is for him. Is that he thinks if he gets justice for Hannah, he'll be able to sidestep the grieving process, which is inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to move on. I like that we see that with Sky. So we set up that he was going to be in a relationship with Sky at the end of the first season. Sky was kind of like, in a way, interesting for a variety of reasons. He tried to move on, thinking his pursuit was basically thinking that his pursuit was just was his grieving, and it kind of led to a few doomed relationships. And I think the main doomed relationship is with Sky, and I think the reason that relationship was kind of doomed. Again, don't get me wrong, they're still friendly with each other. That's kind of what we explored this season, but I think the reason things didn't work out with Sky is because Sky was really a placeholder and kind of him seeking redemption for Hannah. Like he's at the end of the season, I think it's exactly what we saw,
which he had very good intentions for, but I feel like the place where it kind of fell off was when he tried to manifest that into a full-blown relationship. That was, he should have stuck to friends with Sky, because at the end of the day, he knows he's not really sexually attracted to Sky.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. The end of the season. I don't know if anyone really had a problem with how we ended the bit with Sky at the end of last season, but what's cool about this, you kind of read that as it is. Like, well, yeah, it's like him trying to save another potential Hannah, and that's really what the relationship is formed on, which is why it could never work.
Exactly. It's almost kind of insulting. It's like, okay, you saved me now. Now what?
Yeah. And the fascinating thing with Clay is that Sky represents Clay's arc of him trying to be proactive when it's impossible, and that's what Clay is this whole season. He's trying to be proactive when it's impossible.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like in an attempt to be proactive, he's stirring the pot unintentionally, which in a grand sense, I think kind of leads to, again, I can't just it's like a what if, it's like a number of what if scenarios, but I think in some ways he stirs the pot, he leaks the tapes, he does all this stuff. In some ways it helps, but in other ways, I think it leads to what happens to Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I think leaking the tapes in particular was kind of like the big moment people are talking about, where it's like, what do you think, Dragon? Do you think that was a stupid moment on Clay's part? I thought it was definitely a realistic, emotional reaction that he would have. But at the same time, I thought it was a ballsy move for the show to pull that with their main character, to kind of it was kind of the equivalent to what he does to Tyler in season 1, honestly, where it's like the one time where he kind of stoops to the level of the bullies in a way.
Yes, well, here's the thing. I really like that choice, and I buy it from him because, again, it's sort of like, why the heck aren't they admitting this into evidence? And again, that's something we'll get to when we get to kind of the bakers of it all. But But yes, I absolutely think it's something that he would do if you're frustrated for justice. And again, things leak all the time in real life, folks. It's from the White House, things leak constantly. And it doesn't surprise me that something like this would leak. And I think it's better than what we did with Tyler in the first season. You're right, Tiki. Again, I think it's a little different than that in a good way.
Mhm.
So I really like that choice. I like how it does stir the pot, and of course, there's good and bad that comes from it, and it's definitely again Clay. And again, it's something that easily could be traced to Clay too, which is not.
I mean, I do like the chaos that unfolds at the school after that happens. You know, how, like, Bryce's confession is being played over the loudspeaker. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, like, shit's really going down. You know, it's kind of sets the stage for a cataclysmic last few episodes.
Absolutely. And again, I thought it's such a great like tipping point in the season.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Hannah's ghost a little.
Hannah's ghost.
Ghost. Now, of course, folks, we're calling it Hannah's ghost for two reasons. One, because basically Hannah's obviously she's passing there. She's still kind of there, Bates Motel style, in front of Clay a lot in this season. And secondly, of course, in Goosebumps, there was a girl named Hannah who was also a ghost.
God.
Dylan Minnette had a relationship.
Yup.
So it's just the irony bounds, folks.
All right. I think there were good and bad moments with Hannah's ghost. I think by far the most powerful moment for me was the end of, I believe, something like episode 10 or episode 11. Where Clay is just like really laying it out on her, like, you did an evil thing, Hannah. What you did affected everyone, and you didn't realize that. I thought that was just a really powerful moment, and something that, of course, we couldn't have gotten unless we had this device of him talking to Hannah. So that was all really well executed.
I'm absolutely with you on that because I do love that moment because that was something the first season kind of was hinting at subtly. Is that again when you question the logic of like who would go through this basically who would lay out this whole 13 reasons why tape idea, like who would like go this extraneous length instead of just like having one singular tape to explain what happened.
Like in a way, it's kind of calling Hannah out on her like almost dare I say sociopathic qualities in that regard.
Exactly, and I love that we kind of, in a way, and again, this is kind of like the Alex thing. We kind of retroactively make the first season a little better by making sure that we explore this.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like Hannah wasn't perfect, and without her faults, and we explored, and that's what the trial's doing simultaneously. But especially doing this through Clay, and Clay questioning the whole season as he kind of sits on a few of the trials and he hears the stuff that comes out. How well he knew the girl that he loved, and it's a roller coaster that it goes on.
Oh yeah.
Season. And I guess bridging off of that, I love that via Tyler, via Tyler, he goes through this helplessness, where he almost, like Tyler, he feels very helpless this season. That's kind of the kingship they have, and how there's someone leads him down a dark path, where again he feeling so helpless, he almost takes justice into his own hands in a really big way. And I love with Hannah's ghost, by the way, that of course aside from the moment that we have before us right now. Aside from the moment that we have before us right now with Clay screaming in front of Hannah, which is really great. And I think it was like early in the season too.
It was like maybe episode 2, I think.
Yeah. It's right because after what happened to Sky, he just turns back to her and screams at the episode.
Yeah.
And I love that basically when he can't get Bryce out of his mind, Hannah is like following him, walking down the street with him, reciting the tape.
That is really creepy. I do like that device. I kind of wish that more of the Hannah's ghost stuff would have been stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
Like kind of a little bit more in the uncanny valley a little bit.
Certainly.
Let's see. I'm trying to I know there's other really good Clay moments that we're kind of passing over. I just want to make sure we get through all of them.
Well, come on.
Of course, his speech at the funeral is heartbreaking. It
is. Oh my God! It's at least one of my favorite. I'm trying to think. I'm going to say it for the next character we do, but let's just say it's my favorite. Basically, your equivalent to the hug is my favorite moment. The next character we're going to get.
Fair enough. I
love how Clay's proactivity, again, while helpless, pays off with Justin and Tyler, with those characters. He kind of reaches, those characters. And I guess we should talk about the other side, the big Tyler scene with Clay. That's the big one we should talk about.
Yeah. So do you want to get into the ending now?
Yeah. Well, yeah, with the big ending, sure. Yeah, well, I don't know where else we're going to talk about. We might as well
Okay.
here. Yeah.
So this was definitely it was a ballsy choice on the writer's part. Like, and this is like, Dragon, I'm gonna be pissed if there's not a season 3 after this. All right, if this is where this show ends with the whole like, what do we do now? I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna be like, no, you physically cannot do that. You can't do that to me, Netflix. I think it very much speaks volumes to Clay's arc as a character as a whole, because he's someone who, like much like Hannah, isn't perfect, and much like Tyler, kind of got sent to a breaking point. But I love the logic behind, excuse me, why he wants to stop Tyler, which is because he knows that Tyler's going to die from this if he pursues this, and he can't take losing another life at the school. He knows the school can't take it. He knows the students can't take it. Of course, he's looking out for everyone else in the process as well. He knows that Tyler's liable to take other lives. But I like, at the end of the day, it's I'm sorry, Dragon, I'm kind of getting a fit of the hiccups out of nowhere.
Well, look, I love that at the end. I think what you're getting to is that I love that he's the only one to care about Tyler this whole season. One of the only students that care about Tyler and point out that no school shooting has a happy ending, especially for the school shooter. Like, never is there rarely if ever is there a surviving school shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So he relates to someone else with that feeling of powerlessness, and in basically in reaching him, he saves everyone after all the trauma and all the pain that both of them have endured. At the end, he's able to reach somebody, which is really nice.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of leads into the big cliffhangers of the season, which is Dragon. I think even beyond Tony, even beyond Clay holding the gun, I really want to know where the fuck Tony is taking Tyler.
I honestly, part of me just wants to. Again, I don't know what framing device they're going to use next season, but just if they get into the thick of the action, I want to see just like from Tony. I want to start the season off with Tony in that car. It's kind of how I want to start the season off.
I have 2 theories, Dragon. You want to know my 2 theories?
Well, does it relate to Tony? Well, I mean, we should probably save it when we get.
No, it doesn't relate to Tony. Really?
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Okay, so theory 1, he takes Tyler to in and out. He's just like, look, man, you need to chill out. You need to eat some In and Out. You need to enjoy a frosty chocolate milkshake, and we need to talk this over, bro. That's option 1. Option 2, which I think is the more interesting option, is that he goes to Olivia.
Huh.
Because he knows that Olivia is the type of person who wouldn't want to see something bad happen to a troubled kid.
There's one big problem, though.
What?
Olivia left.
Well, I think what's gonna happen is he's gonna catch Olivia like right before she leaves, and he's gonna prevent, like, that's how we're gonna keep Olivia in season 3, basically.
Okay. I see. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess on the whole, the point is, it's really a great heroic moment for Clay, where he is able to be proactive at the very end in a big way that really helps everybody. I always love that Manette kid. I always call him kind of like a young Steve Rogers. He gets me really excited. Like, yeah, Manette reaching Tyler in a really great, emotionally honest way. Like, I don't want you to. The only one to say I don't want you to die. It's a beautiful moment. It's a gutsy moment, and in the end, just overall, Clay. So I love that he. In relation to Hannah, I love that he gets to say goodbye and move forward at that funeral.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess with that in mind, let's move on to the parents in the situation. Let's talk about Andy and Olivia, along with the legal team.
So Kate Walsh is yet again we have a few really great MVPs this season. I think Olivia is one of them. Kate Walsh is absolutely one of them.
I absolutely agree. I think that the interaction she has with every one of Hannah's friends throughout the season, be it Justin, Alex, Clay, just everyone is just really, really heartwarming, and it adds just a sense of levity and hopefulness to the character who, out of anyone in the whole show, she should be the one who's like turning her back on these kids justifiably and kind of being like, no, you scorned my daughter and my daughter's dead because of you. But no, she sees the gray area. You know what I mean? Outside of obvious people like Bryce, who she knows is a piece of shit. But like people like she even sees past people like Tyler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that we set up that she's listened to the tapes, therefore she's informed, and like at the beginning of the season, like she knows these kids to an extent already, having listened to all the tapes that Tony gave her.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants the story told, and unfortunately, and I think what's the tragedy for the Bakers this season, I mean, the tragedy in like a great dramatic storytelling context, is that unfortunately, as she's learned all this new information, it's while she's in the midst of this court case. Which leads to basically she can only deal with this through a public venue, and it's through a public venue where she can't really change her mind on this court case. She has to go through it, and she can't. Again, they've already famously said like no to the settlement and everything, so they're really going after the school. And here's the thing: as a very interesting thing with this whole framing device this season is that an excellent case is made, and eventually what the writers did is they actually they went through the case and they had did like a jury poll of the writers' room, and they ended up deadlocked. Well, 50-50, I should say. They ended up like half and half. And in doing that, it's that it's a question of like, yes, there are people at fault, but wasn't necessarily the school. And of course, at the end of the day, the school does bear blame, yes. But I'm saying there are other factors that the Bakers are being made aware of.
Which I think is definitely true to life. And, like I said, that's one of the things I enjoy about this show, just generally speaking, is this show doesn't have easy answers. The show always takes the moral gray area of everything.
Yeah, and again, like Clay, they kind of learned they didn't know Hannah as well as they thought they did. Mm-hmm. And again, they learned the school's to blame, but not all of it. Now, let's talk a little before... Yeah, let's talk about Andy a little bit here. We're talking a lot about Olivia, though. Let's talk about Andy for a smidge.
Yeah, Andy, I kind of feel like they did a screw job to this season, honestly.
To be fair, he had a lot of good stuff in the first season. I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying. I feel like they really built him up to be a likable guy in the first season, and then here they kind of throw him under the bus a little bit.
They do. Like, the only thing I can really read from Andy is that they wanted to show, again, like, the imperfections of the Baker family. And that's really the only thing I really got from... I say it's still really convenient that of all the people that he shacked up with, it was Jackie, like the friend who was also like a buddy during the case. That was really...
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That was really forced.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, but again, I still like the actor, though. He was like, yeah, he was doing as good a job as he could under the circumstance.
Okay, so let's talk about the legal team, Sonia and Dennis. I have more to say about Sonia, but Dennis, I thought was just, he was very competent. He did his job. He looked very professional. I have nothing against him in any way. I think you could tell with Dennis, he was kind of looking out for the kids' best interest as he was questioning them. He's kind of like drawing kind of a line there.
And with Dennis, I guess since he was a good lawyer, but he was in a very ineffective position where basically, he can get the stories out of the kids. Where basically Sonia, she's in the more powerful position of yes or no questions. Those are really the only questions the only responses that she can get. Mm-hmm. Yes or no responses, which again, those are the condemning ones for the jury. So it's usually it's so flipped, by the way. So sometimes it can be really flipped. Again, the trials cases, it can always kind of vary depending on what's going on. But in this case, it felt like this is a good lawyer, he has good intentions, but he's just kind of in such a helpless position. I really felt had the tapes been, at least is my own view on it. Again, I could be wrong. Look, I know there are complexities in the justice system. Again, no legal strategy is perfect. Let's keep that in mind, folks. But for me, it struck me that had the tapes been admitted, because we talk about this at the beginning of the season, had the tapes been admitted into evidence, they might have had a better chance. Mm-hmm. They would have taken some knocks against Hannah's character, but I feel they would have, again, had the tapes not just been leaked, had they been officially admitted into evidence, one, Clay wouldn't have to leak them, and secondly, you'd have a confession from Bryce Walker caught on tape.
That is the main kind of smoking gun at the end of season 1 that we thought would lead somewhere.
If we would have had a confession that was admissible in court. Again, they could always say certain things weren't admissible or not, but regardless, they would have taken a few hits from Hannah versus all the various hits that they would have taken from each person, discovered live on the stand.
Exactly.
Right.
And with the Bakers, I do think one of the most tragic moments in the season is when we get that verdict, because you really just want to punch something, Dragon. You know what I mean? You feel the hotness of the reaction there.
I tell you, I think it was honestly, I think it was one of the best choices of the season. I respect the logical choice of the Bakers not winning the case, because as I was watching, it's like there's no way they can pull this out of their head.
Oh, I
There's no way they're
agree.
going to
I
win this.
agree.
And in watching, it's like, yeah, there's no way they're going to win this, because Sonya Straw. Let's talk about Sonya a little bit here. So Sonya, she is this merciless defense attorney for the
Oh
school.
man, she's a great kind of if this season has a bad guy, outside of maybe Montgomery, she might be it.
And that's the thing, like she's not obviously she's she's just doing her job, but by the same token, she's doing her job a little too well.
A little too well, yeah, exactly.
She highlights every fault. She's blown the case up. The Bakers are trying to make. She's kind of the unstoppable villain, the quote unquote villain of the season.
Well, she's just kind of like the MVP of the courtroom. You know what I mean? She's kind of like the Johnny Cochran or something. The person that you really can't stop in the courtroom. Like once you get in her line of questioning, something bad is going to go down with you. Like she's going to get something out of you.
Absolutely. By the way, I love how Kate Walsh hates Bryce Walker whenever he's on the stands. Love the hatred you can see.
Oh yeah.
See. Well,
okay.
I guess the big thing I got to talk about then before we move on, unless you got anything else, Tiki.
No. What else do we need to talk about?
I got to talk about my favorite scene in the whole season. It's with Olivia. So I love the 11 reasons in the bye scene where basically she's saying goodbye, heading to New York, and she has a scene with Clay. And I've ever since the first season, I want more scenes with her and Clay. And we only had 2 this season, but the second one, my God, it was perfect. It was one of my favorite moments. Honestly, maybe in the whole series. I don't know. Basically, she reveals, after Clay gave a really beautiful eulogy to Hannah, she reveals the 11 reasons why not.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was the Clay and Olivia scene I've been waiting for the whole season, because I love these 2 characters. I've always been waiting. I've never been the Christmas thing we pitched. It was like I had a scene between Clay and Olivia. That was beautiful.
Yep.
I love these. I want to get these 2 together. Have a scene.
Oh together. God! Don't say that. Don't say that.
No, I just want them to have a scene together.
Okay. I'm just careful with your words, Dragon.
My point is, the scene was played so beautifully, and just she's going to New York to live the life that Hannah wanted, which is kind of a beautiful notion, and she's kind of passing. It's very much a passing of the baton from daughter to mother. But with Clay, I love that he was on the list twice. I freeze framed the list, and I read through it. A lot of it was the parents. The parents are the majority of the reasons why not. And again, the tragedy of that is basically if she takes the parents and Clay out of the equation, there's not a whole lot there. That's kind of the tragedy of it. But and reading through the reasons, all viable reasons, it's just it's you see it was repetitive, the same reasons over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But again, still just that moment where she has the line I've been waiting to hear for 2 seasons with these characters, which is just I wish I'd gotten to know you when Hannah was alive.
Yeah.
And he says, and then she says the episode title, "Bye." It's like, oh my God, yes, perfect. Right.
All right. Okay, let's see. So let's move on to Porter.
Speaking of perfect.
Yeah, this guy was kind of someone who we were very mixed on in season 1. You know what I mean? We were kind of just like, come on, Porter, what are you doing? Try harder, man. And my God, Dragon, he tries harder in season 2.
That's the thing. The main thing I always walked away with Porter from the first season, that he had my favorite scene in the first season, the whole Clay, you can't love someone back to life, but you can try. It's my favorite scene in that first season. Mm-hmm. And we move forward in a story every logical way you'd want him to.
Yeah, this is outside of Zach, I would say Porter is probably the main MVP of the season.
Oh yes.
Just the sense of justice that Porter has throughout. You know what I mean? Just kind of taking the law into his own hands. The scene in episode 1 with Bryce in the bathroom, just great stuff.
He's kind of the Dirty Harry of counselors.
He is. He really is, and I love that.
So he's not complacent.
I love the fact that he knows that his job is on the line, and because of that, he's just going balls to the walls. He's like, all right, I'm going to help as many kids as possible, and I'm going to do as much damage as possible to the school system.
he's very actively trying to help, and you're right. Again, he's putting himself at great risk because he runs into trouble after Justin's stepdad, which was a very fulfilling scene seeing him fight that guy.
Mm-hmm. Of course, one of the biggest fuck yeah moments of the whole season is when he fingers Bryce in court.
Yeah, great. I love that he's seeking actual We have a great dynamic and like a good reflection for Porter. There's much development how wonderful Porter is this season. We have the antithesis to Porter this season.
With the principal?
Well, with the coach, but
with the coach, right, yeah.
The principal falls in love. We'll get to him momentarily, but the coach and Porter, those are the great antithesis to each other.
Well, the coach is great because he's just kind of like, he's got it. Well, he's got a good thing going for him, and he wants to maintain it no matter the cost. And he's kind of just one of those people that, just wants to turn the other way. And I say great, not in that, he's a great guy. I say great in that he's, a very like realistic portrayal of someone who, maybe not a bad guy at heart, but his actions are incredibly harmful, or more importantly, his lack of action.
Certainly, and I feel if Porter's seeking solutions, the coach he wants to ignore and cover things up.
Mm-hmm.
He's all about this maintaining the problem versus seeking the solution. That's really what.
And of course, the coach is kind of like he's got like a legacy of this kind of scandal behind him at this point.
Remember, he has friends at the police station, which again I'm sure might have helped Bryce at the end of the day.
Right.
So, of course, let's look at Porter's finest moment. We got to have his finest moment. So he's on the stand. We have two scenes that simultaneously back to back, and they're one of the most beautiful scenes in the entire season. Where Porter, we have the what if scene too. You want to talk about the what if scene with him?
Oh yeah. That's great. That's crushing. That's one of the best Hannah scenes in the season. Where he's on the stand and he's just kind of like coming clean about all the things he did wrong, all the things that he could have done better. And as that's going on, we're kind of flashing back to this sort of like alternate reality, like alternate timeline of him saying, "No, Hannah, you get back here because you're clearly in distress and we need to figure this out."
He disconnects his phone and like throws it around.
I love that. Yeah.
And then of course the button on it all, where Hannah's response.
You'll have to remind me.
Hannah's response of, but there's one. I think it's something along the lines of, "But there's a problem. I'm already dead."
Oh yeah, right.
And of course, for me, the moment that I really got that was great, but the moment for me was like one of the finest moments of Porter is him apologizing to Olivia on the stand, where Olivia has to take in so much of this disheartening news in that courtroom, and Porter's like the only guy on the stand. And I love this. You see that again. You got to bear in mind that we have this great set piece where again he's brought there on behalf of the school. So the idea is like she's throwing Sonia's throwing softballs at Porter. So Porter he torpedoes the school's plan to help the Bakers out here and clears. He's announcing his walker and he basically clears his conscience and with this beautiful line. I follow protocol. Protocol needs to change, and there's a line that gets me. He says, "Kevin Porter needs to change."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Look, you could read that as silly, but son of a...
No, I don't read it as silly at all. It's a bit sappy, yes, but it's the good kind of sappy.
It's sappy in the best way, darn it. Oh my god! And of course, he's in the hallway, and she gives she's that grateful, like he's crying to his wife. It's beautiful.
Yeah, really nice stuff.
So real quick with Bolin. So Bolin, I feel, is in the middle in a good way. Bolin is in his last moments before he's fired. As he's fired and he's leaving, he's packing up his desk. He's prepared for it. He knew was going to happen. He was going to be like the principal's going to try to play nice with him. But I love that he imparts his mission onto Bolin, saying, "Well, the next counselor, he or she may not care, but here are the files of the kids who are in need of help." And I love that Porter was so proactive. He compiled this list, knowing that what he was going to do, he probably would be kicked out of his ear. But he prepared to help as much as he could with all these files. And
I have a feeling these files might be the plot device for season 3, perhaps.
I love that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So. And I love that the principal does make an attempt. He makes a flawed attempt, but by the same token, he does take Porter's words to heart to an extent. Whether that's just out of saving his own bacon or not, I don't know. But again, I'd like to think he actually took what he said to heart. He just botched it up. So I guess the last thing Porter I have, unless you got anything else.
No, go ahead.
Is that Porter foreshadows Clay's lesson in acting when the moment's right. That Clay, he's acting at all parts when he really should be waiting to act. like, the tapes is like an example at a time where maybe that was like the time to act, or again, like reaching out to convincing Jessica to reach out to Clay. That's a moment to act. Porter, this whole moment, like when he was on the stand, that was his moment to act. So again, he's the foreshadow of Clay's lesson through the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to Tony Padilla.
I had a funny observation about Tony this season.
Go ahead.
Tony reminded me of, like, if it's gonna sound so silly. Tony reminded me of if Romero had a son, it would probably.
Oh my god!
Because he has the eyeliner thing too, just like Romero. That's the thing. Because he just like, if Romero had a son, it would be Romero from Bates Motel, Nestor Carbonell. He had a son because he acts like Romero too, with the anger management, like he was.
You're right.
It's like he plays Romero's son this season, next generation of Romero, and it's awesome.
All right. One last theory of where Tony's taking Tyler, really quick, just because it popped into my head. Maybe he's taking Tyler to the same cliffs that he took Clay to climb.
I'd love it if that. I want it to be that, honestly.
All right. I still want it to be in and out.
But now remind me, T. I want you to clear, because I think you might remember this better than I. Did he take Clay to In and Out when they were having their conversation that episode?
No. I just like to be honest with you. That was actually the In and Out thing was actually something that the Tony actor came up with in an interview of like where Tony's taking Tyler. Like, oh, I think he's just taking him to In and Out. Like listen, bro, you got to relax. You got to sit down. You got to eat some burgers. We got to get you in a better headspace.
Remember, Tony's all about eating the food when you're in an emotional crisis. That's all.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
All right, so Tony, boy, we got a lot of Tony here. So Tony, he's hiding the reason he carried out Hannah's request, and again, that's a cool reveal we have this season too.
Yeah, we got a lot of good Tony reveals this season. At least two good ones. And I really think it goes to just kind of flesh out his character. And what I love about Tony is like kind of like the least stereotypical gay character I've seen in quite a while, Dragon. I mean, there's just nothing stereotypical about him.
It's kind of refreshing too, because you never really hear that these days. The actor is not gay in real life, because usually we cast a gay actor to play a gay actor in a lot of series. It's kind of cool.
I feel like Ryan is kind of like an attempt to like make something more three-dimensional out of a stereotype, whereas Tony just completely defies the stereotype.
Certainly. And again, we clear up the big mystery of so Tony. Basically, he's one strike away from going to juvie, like Sherry did, which we'll talk about Sherry briefly a little later. And so Tony, he's very much in hiding this season. Again, Tony's been very much he's a direct solution kind of guy beforehand. And we clipped the mystery of like, why the heck is he's been working at a gym. Well, he's been going to a gym. He's been basically pounding out his anger issues as part of like his court-appointed kind of anger management sessions. And we reveal that a man who we met at the gym. I love this reveal, by the way. The guy that he bumped into at the gym. We learned in flashback was the result of Tony beating an intolerant man who basically insulted he and Ryan. I believe they were going on a date during that flashback, right?
Yeah, they were.
Basically, this guy spoils the date, and then of course, just he says some very insulting things, and Tony unleashes on the man, and he runs, and Hannah hides him, and therefore, he owes Hannah.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, and like I said, that's kind of why I think that maybe Mrs. Baker is going to get involved with the Tyler thing.
And speaking of Mrs. Baker, before I forget about it, one of my favorite ideas this season, one of my favorite dynamics this season is, again, short of Zach and Alex, is Tony and Olivia. I love them being friends. I was always a fan of that idea, and I love that. I think I even put that in the Christmas pitch a little bit, because I just want to see those two characters together as well. But I love these two being friends in this season.
What do you think about Andy kind of thinking that it's inappropriate? Because that was another kind of strike against Andy that I had. It's like, really, Andy? Like, the guy that kind of helped hide your daughter's secrets and gave you a lot of closure, like, really?
I gotta be honest. I might have just been so sucked into it, but I completely forgot about that part. I didn't know that he was down on that dynamic.
Yeah, she mentions a couple of times that Andy was, she basically all she says is that Andy thought it was inappropriate that he was coming over so much.
Okay, now I'm kind of remembering that. I don't know. I didn't really read into it, but I think you're right. It's probably something that didn't reflect well.
Well, like I said, it's just another thing to be kind of like it's just another reason to throw Andy under the bus this season, which I wasn't too fond of.
So what gets us this big reveal is Tony's new love interest this season, who I think was kind of interesting. Caleb.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. Like I don't think he pops off the screen in the way a lot of other characters do, but I think he's a good counterbalance to Tony. I really love the moment when Tony's car gets wrecked and he's calming Tony down from the anger attack.
Right. And I love with that. I love what him being like the anger management guy. I love that he was kind of a Porter-esque figure helping Tony out.
Sure, in a way I could see that. Yeah.
So let's see. So again, at the end of the season, as we've kind of been saying a little bit sporadically here, is that Tony's been he puts himself at great risk to do the right thing at the end of this season, thanks to Clay, and Clay's kind of reminded him of what he does here, and again because it's the right thing, and again he saves a lot of people, and again saves saves like a needless death at the end, because again if they spot this kid with a gun, things could get messy, something bad could happen, and poor Starr could just could be dead even just for like having hesitated on the school shooting. He's being caught in broad daylight with that gun. So Tony does a really gutsy thing at the end there, and again he's probably going to be in great danger in this season.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's move on to, I would say, performance-wise, Dragon. Just in terms of performance, this guy is the MVP. Freaking Bryce Walker, played by Justin Prentice. My God, this guy needs an Emmy.
Justin Prentice is such a good actor.
Like he is just like so on point throughout this whole season. He's absolutely chilling, but at the same time, there's moments where you just kind of want to get behind the guy because he's so charming at the same time, and he's got that lack of he's got this chilling lack of empathy to him, but it's almost like he's an evil version of Dexter Morgan, you know what I mean?
In a way, yeah, I've never heard that put that way. I can kind of see that. He's sort of he's this static. If every character is going through a change this season, the only character who really doesn't change is Bryce. Bryce is kind of static and the static evil character in respects. And I love this season though. While Bryce doesn't change, we learn about Bryce, and I thought that was really good.
We do, and we learn that with Bryce. It's really kind of like the effect of privilege in a lot of ways, where we kind of get the sense that Bryce doesn't even really know that what he's doing is wrong to a certain extent, or at the very least, he's like trying to push it out of his mind that it's wrong.
And again, we see where that line of thought comes from. I thought it was so interesting, where we're informed that a lot of this comes from his parents, mainly the fact that we learn these great details in this season, which I don't know if everybody picked up on, but I love this fact that his father, who again he's a privileged guy who's very callous and very very elitist, and the fact that he funds the school, hence Bryce Walker being there's like the name of the field after him or something, or they're doing something
right.
And again, that's because his father funds the school, and that's why they have all the high price lawyers. So his father is probably what's funding the Sonia in the courtroom. So you see privilege in effect all over the season in relation to Bryce. And of course, the scary idea with his father is this whole demand of loyalty in women, basically subservience in the entitled viewpoint of Walker, which is why he doesn't see that horrific and terrifying lack of empathy. That's where it comes from. He doesn't know what he's doing is wrong until you hit it right on the head.
But then what I love about the season, though, with Bryce is that his mother is the one person who's like, oh my God, what have I done? You know what I mean? What kind of monster have I raised? And that was, oh God, just the tension in those scenes between Bryce and his mother were just some of the most nail-biting scenes in the whole season, honestly.
I just love her condemning her son's actions because it adds that great level of we're not just like bad parents, we're not just like snooty parents. We have one really we see where it comes from with the one parent. The other parent's a lot more sympathetic and remorseful. And I think one of the most interesting scenes with Bryce this season. So again, while he does remain static, he does have this really interesting moment that we got to talk about where he has this twisted lie on the stand. Where here's the thing. He's kind of inverted a truth. So it's kind of.
What do you think of the glasses, by the way?
I've seen him doing interviews with the glasses on, so I love seeing
I know. So that was priceless. That was priceless. It's just like I feel like that's kind of like Justin Prentice's superpower. It's like his Clark Kent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the actress who plays Jessica, she did. I was watching the thing at the end of when you get to the end of 13 Reasons season 2, they have like the 13 Reasons, the
I
Beyond
still have
13,
to see that. Yeah.
and that's good. They basically do a combination of like a bunch of different people on the couch and like the discussion couch. Anyway, so the actress who plays Jessica, of course, she has a scene where basically Bryce gets really in her face towards the end of the season. And she says that when Justin Prentice, when he does those scenes, he has like a thing in his eyes that just kind of shifts from like kind of the friendly guys, like just being like a monster.
Oh, I can see that.
So
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
gives her that look at the end of the season, that's what she's seeing. She's seeing kind of the devil look her in the face right there. So I love that while he is static, he gets smarter this season. That's what's scary, is that he has this evil, clever moment where, again, we see in his own twisted mind, it's like something that would give the audience sympathy for him, but in reality, it's basically we learn that he doesn't get it. We learn that he doesn't get it, and in that moment, with Hannah, we reveal that he and Hannah went to the clubhouse willingly. It seemed.
Right, and what do you make of like this is kind of like the biggest, most twisted ambiguity of the whole season is the relationship with Hannah. I personally think it's mostly all bullshit. I think he might have hung out with Hannah once, and then I think he was the one that got fixated on Hannah, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's the fascinating. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's the fascinating thing. See, there's some unreliable narrator at play who raises all of these questions. By the same token, I thought the most interesting rap that I really think they went with is that he invited Hannah. Hence, there was a photograph that she was in that clubhouse. We know that much. She was in the clubhouse, invited her, and I think she politely shot him down. As we kind of see at the end of the episode, we see how it went. He's just reminiscing on it, so we do get somewhat of an answer there. Where obviously all the stuff that he was saying, you're right, that was a lie. But by the same token, that where it all started from, and I think the feelings that he felt, he just switched who had those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And again, by the same token, like in his own mind, like he wasn't lying on the stand. He just shifted like who said what. So in his own, like it's a twisted sort of. Basically, he's playing with he said, she said, in all ways he possibly could.
Right.
Marcus is completely fabricating something where he's taking the events and the same dialogue that she had to him, but just saying what if she said it, and she can't defend herself. She can't refute those claims, and there's no record of it. Which again, it's so clever and evil, such an evil genius move. And I feel that we see that he's innocent in the mischief that goes on behind the scenes this season. Because, he's confident in his lawyers and the jocks and everything. And, of course, Montgomery, who I guess we really should also talk about.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So Bryce is, like, assumedly responsible for all the mischief and all, like, the horrible acts of bullying, kind of, like, threatening people to keep their mouth shut during the trial or stuff. We assume it's Bryce. And, like, Alex is saying, oh, it's effing Bryce. It's supposed to But it's Montgomery. So again, now T, I believe you want to talk about Montgomery here.
Yeah, I called this because I knew it wasn't going to be Bryce, because I knew Bryce wasn't going to put himself out there like that. But who was going to do it if it wasn't Bryce? Well, of course it was going to be Bryce's right-hand man. So honestly, folks, I found this reveal pretty predictable. But by the same token, I think Montgomery is a fascinating antagonist. I love that they kind of like in the shadows, you know what I mean? Like in the whole background of the season, they raised the stakes and they created possibly an antagonist for next season who's even more unhinged than Bryce.
Oh yeah, I think Montgomery's definitely gonna be a big part next season. I would bet money on. Montgomery, he kind of acts as like this sycophant, sort of the old like a Spike and Ike, like we're pals, right? We're pals. Huh? He's just trying to please Bryce. He's just such a sycophant, but by the same token, he's a sycophant, sadistic henchman. He has these cutting threats to people. He sends Alex a bullet and a gun. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just these really cutting things, just all throughout.
Yeah, and let's see.
But what I do like is I like how they address, like, yeah, he's got a shitty home life, but sometimes that's just not an excuse.
Certainly. I mean, he literally commits all these hate crimes. I'm sure they're going to nail him for this next season. At least that's going to be one
I
of the
really
hopes.
hope that hate crime is something that gets addressed with him. Yeah.
That's the thing, he did all the stuff that he did, folks. It was absolutely constitutes hate crimes because he's committing acts against all the crimes are targeted against, like I guess I believe the terms like there's slut shaming. That was more on Chloe technically, though. But I mean, you have that. Yeah. Well, no, he did too with the hangman's noose. You had that. You had the bolt and the gun. Vandalism with the car and the porter. And like again, there's a lot of hate crimes and vandalism and bad vandalism in there. And of course, you really rude for him to get shot in that scene, didn't you? If you wanted Alex to shoot him.
Yeah.
Part of you did. It's just like, oh man, this guy deserves it.
But then again, like I said, the thing that I like about this show is the ambiguity of like, we want justice, you know what I mean? Like it goes back to that scene with Bryce and Clay. It's like we kind of want Clay to pull the trigger, but at the same time, we know if Clay pulls the trigger, that's going to ruin Clay's life. So that's the thing. I love how this show kind of like it shows the ramifications for everyone's actions all the way around.
Certainly, and with Bryce, getting back to Bryce a little here. So I love that we have the big thing we have, the big huge talking point of the season with Bryce is, of course, the real life reflection of the legal system at work here, where the school gets off scot free, and not only that, so Bryce, Jessica, kind of stands up to him, and she shares her story. Which, by the way, so we don't forget about it, we had that really effective, really cool idea how we started. I believe we started the last episode with all the women of the show, or not even all the women, like some of the male characters too. We have a whole number of characters sharing their stories, like of sexual assault and rape and such. And it was really haunting because the idea is like obviously not all of them went up there to actually talk about it, but we're getting an insight to something they may or may not have shared privately.
Right.
It's fascinating, and basically Jessica and Bryce taking over. And we have the real life reflection of the system. Basically, he gets a slap on the wrist because of his privilege. 3 months probation.
Yeah, that's definitely probably outside of like all the physical stuff that goes down this season. Like mentally speaking, that's got to be the thing that fucks with you the most. You know what I mean?
Let me remind the folks, if there's any Better Call Saul fans, like Jimmy McGill got a year's probation. For not doing, for basically breaking down a door and yelling at somebody. I think we like Jimmy McGill.
But Bryce Walker, for God knows how many rape charges.
Or at least 30.
I think you'll do better, son. I think you're on a right track.
God. Like, you better keep your...
Okay, you know what my favorite thing about that is, kind of like after the fact? I love how we see Bryce in the school dance. By the way, how ridiculous is it that a fucking charged rapist is allowed to go to the school dance?
It's ridiculous, you're right. But again, his father has pull. They can't refuse him, I guess.
I guess so, but it leads to one of my favorite Bryce lines in the season, which is, you're a good kid, Clay. You need to get laid, but you're a good kid.
Oh, yeah, that is her.
I love that because it's just like, at the end of the day, that's kind of like the final cherry on top of like the Bryce is, he is charming, you know what I mean? And he knows how to get under your skin.
You know what's kind of really twisted about that line, though? He's kind of he's again, Justin Prentice is so wonderful in that it is kind of he delivers it kind of pleasantly. Yet what's being said, what he says is like it's kind of flaunting in Clay's face that hey, at least I slept with him.
Right. Oh God.
It's so cutting. That's kind of that's kind of the subtext of what he's saying there. Like, hey, I got further than you loved her. Oh God, it's so cutting. So again, basically at the end of the day, he gets a slap on the wrist. Chloe's pregnant, which means there's no justice, and he's almost with Chloe being pregnant, getting out of scot free. He's like laughing in the face of justice. That's kind of what we have at the end of the day with Bryce.
Well, I feel like eventually Chloe being pregnant is going to be his comeuppance.
Oh sure, absolutely. I mean, there's going to be. I wonder, no, because she said it was consensual. You can't just say it never happened.
No. But what I'm saying is that her being pregnant is just gonna that's just gonna throw his entire life upside down. You know what I mean? As any teen pregnancy would throw anyone's life upside down.
Sure.
Okay, so let's move on to the final person of the episode, Justin, not Justin Prentice.
Right.
By the way, that must get really confusing on set.
It must be. All right, so
Okay,
Justin has
Justin
a very
Foley.
interesting arc.
Yeah, Justin Foley is probably, outside of maybe Clay, maybe the most heroic character in the season.
In the first season, he was just really spineless and cowardly. You know, that's the thing.
Yes, but I feel like he redeemed himself by the final moments of the first season. I feel like the first season was a slow burn to him becoming a better person, even if he was on a bad track in life.
True.
And I feel like we pick up on that theme. We pick up on the whole idea of, like, you know, he's a kid from the wrong side of the tracks, but he's a good kid at heart. And I gotta say, Dragon, some of the stuff with Justin is heartbreaking. For me.
It is. I believe it.
Especially all the stuff with his mother, because I don't want to get into personal details, but let's just say my mom is also attached to a cancerous guy that she can't get rid of, and it's stuff like that is always hard to watch for me. I can't watch the Peekaboo episode of Breaking Bad, Dragon. I can't. You know, like, viscerally, I have a strong emotional reaction to that thing. But every time I rewatch Breaking Bad, I have to skip that.
I don't really see that much of a connection with Peekaboo, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, yeah, but you're not living my situation.
Right. Sorry.
So, anyways, no, all the Justin stuff is really heartbreaking. To me, I guess the one thing I was going to nitpick about it is, while the relapse stuff it's definitely realistic and it's portrayed in a sensitive light, I kind of wish they didn't have him relapse at the end, because God damn it, like, I wanted a glimmer of hope from him.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost frustrating. It's like he's in a good place now. You know, he's got Clay, he's got the Jensens, he's even got Jessica to a certain extent. So it's like, it's frustrating that he relapsed. At the same time, I guess what I'm trying to say here is I feel like that was the one example of the show maybe could have afforded to not take the uber realistic route.
You know what's funny? I just imagine there's a guy in the writers' room. There might be like a guy at least in every writer's room, but I just imagine, especially for a show like 13 Reasons Why.
Like, nope, that's not going to happen. You know, technically speaking, the guy would probably relapse.
But here's the thing: there's that guy in the writers' room who has like this one word that he says at the end, like, "Okay, guys, we have a good season here. We got it all figured out." And he says, "Yeah, we ended on a hopeful note." And then there's this one guy just like sitting like he's on, like he's like sitting in his chair, leaning back, and he gets up and he says, "Hope." And that's all he says. And it basically makes them all pause and has to like, all right, let's go with it. Happy. There's that one guy that defined like question mark. Hope.
All right. Let's see. What can we do to make these characters miserable again? Well,
relapse, heroin.
Let's see. Jessica cheats on Alex. Check. Let's see. Clay's probably going to get blamed for the school shooting.
Yeah.
Tony's in danger. Let's see. Like, you know what I mean?
You know what? Let's just let Bryce gets away 3 months.
Yeah. Right.
Here's the kicker. We'll give Bryce 3 months, and we'll give Justin 6 months.
You know, to be fair, though, I don't think anything bad happens to Zach. I think Zach gets away pretty scot-free.
That is true.
Anyways.
And you know what else? Let's just stick the knife in even further, all right? Justin got 6 months because his mother wouldn't claim him. Okay. So, off of that...
Oh, by the way, that was another thing about Justin, that throughout the whole finale, my stomach was in my freaking, my gut, Dragon. I
was waiting for the stepfather.
Yes, I was waiting for the stepfather to come in, and that was just, basically, I thought there was going to be a big cataclysmic, like, right as Tyler was going to do his thing, the stepfather would have interrupted things and would have just erupted in, like, this big madhouse, but that wasn't exactly how it went down. But at the same time, that stepfather stuff is going to be, that's going to be hard to watch for me in season 3, Dragon. That's going to be really hard to watch.
He's scouting him out. He's following him.
I know.
I love the horror. I mean, I love that he kind of gave his mother a push to help her. But again, it's
I love that, Dragon, and that's exactly the type of shit I wish I could do to my mother, honestly.
I know, but again, it's a move to help, but by the same token, it's a risky move. You know, I love that. Just like you said, like he took more money, and not as a point of like because he needs it. He took it as a point of like, hey, he gave her something. Hey, look, I've done this, so you can get away from it.
Right.
Let's see. So let's back up a little bit on Justin. Again, Justin, Clay and Tony, they save him from rock bottom, which of course he's very heroin, which leads into his heroin detox.
Which leads to Sherry baby.
All right. So, I'm sorry. Okay.
Hey, it works because Zach, because Riverdale, it works.
Anyway, so let's talk about Sherry here for a moment. So Sherry, I like that she kind of saves a life to make up for the life that she cost because she cost Jeff his life in the first season. That's mainly the only thing I really wanted to bring.
I also do like that she's kind of she does that bold thing of kind of putting herself out there to get into the clubhouse. That's kind of her main role in the season. And again, with the realistic kind of like the hope thing, I like how she's kind of emotionally scarred by the clubhouse and she doesn't really get a lot of resolution after that.
And by the way, speaking of the clubhouse, I mean, how heartbreaking was that reveal that the coach covered up the clubhouse?
Oh yeah, it's again, it's one of those things that just makes you want to slap the adults on the show in the face.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see. So we learn more about, and again, this was a great dimension that we got through Justin's parentage. That we see, kind of the poor drug-addled background of Justin. That's kind of a predisposition, and then he's fallen to rock bottom. It was a life course thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin, I love that, as you said, he's seeking redemption for harming the woman that he loves, and he's very genuine all his attempts and like being around Jessica. He said, "Look, if you don't want me here, I won't be here." Really nice. And the most interesting thing we do, Justin, one of the last things we have hit on here, one of the most interesting things we do with Justin, the flashback with Bryce and Justin as kids.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up. Oh my God, didn't that just paint Bryce in a different light, right? It's like it's almost impossible to watch that scene and not see Bryce as a human being.
I think storytelling-wise, one of my favorite choices, and I think it unfolded like this. I think it was the end of episode 11. I think it was either 11 or 12. It was Justin having this great threat to Bryce that again actually made Bryce sweat a little. Where Justin said, "Hey, I got nothing left to lose here." Where Bryce has absolutely everything to lose. All things that can be taken away from him. Or again, like just that threat. And then of course after that. In the next episode, which I don't know if we. Oh no, it has to be episode 12, and we have to probably start episode 12. We start 12 with that flashback and seeing that Justin started off as like a kid who had nothing, and Bryce protected him because he took a liking to the kid, and it was like the closest thing to a nice thing Bryce has ever done.
Yeah.
And so the adoption thing with Clay's parents, which we haven't talked about.
It's so nice. It's so goddamn nice. And Clay's parents, I feel like they're improved on from season 1.
I liked them in season 1, but I love what we do here in this season where we address the helplessness with the parents too. Like, okay, now you know everything. Can you do anything to help? Didn't think so.
Exactly.
And I think Matt, Clay's father, had a really great moment where he outside after Clay's basically, and we kind of glazed over this. I thought back here too. So Clay, of course, he unintentionally, and this is like another writing thing I felt it makes sense, but it just still felt like the whole LSD trip, whatever, like a little recreational. Basically, Hannah and the kids, they took this, Clay succumbed to peer pressure, and they called him on the stand, which torpedoed his character for Hannah's trial.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was heartbreaking to see that happen, but yeah, they called him on everything. Apparently, those kids must have ruled on him. But I love that Matt, he said, I don't understand why kids, keep things from their parents.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of like the age-old debate with parents. It's like, hey, we were doing that kind of stuff when we were his age. You know what I mean? Like, which is, like I said, it's the age-old struggle of parenthood. Like you want to do right by your kids, but at the same time, you don't want to be a hypocrite.
Exactly. Lainey was the only issue I had with the parents this season, but again, she course corrected by the end. But it's like she just kind of left things. And I know they got into it. Like his parents go through the ringer this season. They really get into an argument where they're really cool in the first season, and again, they're very understanding. They buy him a car for crying out loud. To be fair, he does almost get killed while on that bike, so it's really smart.
I also like the justification of like, all right, mom, no secrets. And then it's like that's immediately when Justin enters the picture.
Of course. Again, Justin.
You know
again,
what that reminded me of? That kind of reminded me of the bit in Infinity War of like, Tony being like, "All right, you know what? No secrets, just straight up, no surprises ever again." And then Doctor Strange comes in. Tony Stark, I'm Doctor Strange. We need to talk to you right away.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was so nice them adopting him, and again, like Lainey really stepping up when it came to Justin. They looked past the whole idea. They had their fights, but by the same token, they knew what it's a family of people who are going to do the right thing. I really appreciate that.
Sure. All right.
So, in the end, Clay went from not liking Justin at all to being kind of like, he actually
like a brother to Justin.
Yeah, like a friend who actually cares about him, and of course, he threw up over like half of his room constantly through the season. So yeah, that's friendship if I've ever seen it.
Okay. All right, folks. So that kind of brings us through the ringer of characters in this season. I guess the one last thing to do is deliver some final thoughts. So I'll go first.
Is there any last speculation you have too?
Honestly, I kind of got through most of my speculation as we were talking. Like I said, the big thing is like I'm just really curious where Tony's going to take Tyler. That's the thing I'm the most curious about.
I have a theory on that. I'd like to share.
Okay.
Okay, I think he's going to Porter.
He's going to Porter. I like that.
What I think we're going to do next season, I think Porter is going to be really pivotal. I think, on the whole, I think Porter is going to be saving Tyler privately. Like, he's going to be he's going to be counseling him on the side. He's going to be...
I've also heard the idea that Porter is going to get a job at Bryce's new school.
Bryce's new school?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, right. So, yeah, because he's going to the new school. Oh, my God, that'd be interesting. But
wouldn't that be great?
That would be. I want him as, like, the social crusader on the side, though, like, helping things out. I
mean, he could still be helping out on the side and also, like, being the counselor at that school who's, like, keeping an eye on Bryce.
Sure. Let's see.
As I said, I think, like, again, the logical thing to do with the framing device would be to look into the troubled kids.
Certainly. Like, in Porter as an advocate, it just kind of makes sense. Like, in some variety, he's going to be, like, helping. I think after he finds out what happened, I want Porter to be informed. I want kind of Clay working with Porter in some capacity. Like, they go to Porter for help and like guidance, and basically they get a strategy.
Clay and Porter kind of went on these big arcs of redemption in season 2, but they didn't really interact with each other throughout most of it.
If anything, I think Porter might be going directly after Montgomery as like a revenge mission, perhaps.
I mean, I could see that, but at the same time, it all depends on what they do with Tyler. It depends on if Tyler wants to go the route, because Tyler basically holds all the cards for Montgomery. If Tyler wants to bring down Montgomery, he certainly has the means to. As I said, it's obviously at the cost of very, very personal information getting out. And then with Bryce, like I said, I love the idea of him Porter just being like the constant reminder, like, yeah, I know what you did, motherfucker, and I'm going to follow you to the end of your high school career. You can't get away from me until you hold that diploma in your hands.
So I guess the main thing I want to, the last main thing to speculate on for me would be, two things. Okay, real quick. With Alex, I love Alex's father. We didn't really talk about him that much, and it's all right. But Alex's father, the sheriff, I'd like it if in some way he could save Tony from jail time.
I could see that. Yeah.
He's like as a service to his friend, like learning what he did for him, like a way of like kind of cheating the system in a good way, in a positive way. And I guess the hopefully optimistic ending, because you remember what happens with Hope in 13 Reasons, though. So bear in mind that one guy, that Hope guy. Hope out of the is like Hope. Take that guy out of the equation. Here's an optimistic ending for next season. We build a sense of again. Basically, they convince Tyler to go. Basically, they use Tyler's case. They formulate a better plan than the Bakers went with, because again, the Bakers learned all of this in the middle of their case. So basically, we start forming a case with all of Tyler's stuff. from the get-go, we build a real case, taking them Montgomery and exposing the school. They say another stab at the school in a way. And at the end, we build a sense of community awareness. So basically, they learn of the tragedy that they avoided, and they use Tyler as the wake-up call to what almost happened. So whether it's exposed publicly or not, I hope that they can, avert tragedy in the future. Anyway, that's what I did.
All right. So yeah, now final thoughts. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of like a little stressed because I try to keep these podcasts under an hour and a half, and this is like going on 2 hours. So
that's a biggie.
I guess so. So final thoughts on my end. I definitely this is a very, very subversive show, and I can see why people have a hard time with it. I had a hard time with season one. Season one rocked me to the core for weeks. And like I said, I have no experience in the realm of sexual abuse. And if you're a sexual abuse survivor, I certainly do not recommend you watch season two. But, season two for me, I just thought was really, really well framed. It definitely improved. Pretty much every single character in some way, besides maybe Marcus, was an improvement from season one. It did a lot of stuff right. It had a big driving tension to it. It had a lot of, it had a lot of MacGuffins, but MacGuffins that made sense and red herrings and everything like that. Like, it used those writing devices, but it used them really well and really effectively. And at the end of the day, I had a much cleaner time watching the season. It obviously includes the brutal scene at the end of the season, but I kind of walked away from the season with a bigger sense of hope, in spite of everything that hope guy in the writers' room is trying to fight against. So yeah, at the end of the day, I do think the season is a little bit more hopeful than season one in a lot of ways.
Okay, for me, I felt this season, it felt different yet continued to build momentum. I could feel the continuing tone from the first season, but an evolution in tone in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little less. I kind of found that it's a little less frustrating, more investing than the first season. A little less frustrating that you basically. I don't mean frustrating in a negative way. I mean frustrating in a way of like you want to get to the end, you want to see justice done. It fills your. It felt different in that way. I like a little more. Right. You invested in it and like in the journey more than just wanting to get to the end of it, like everybody watching the tapes. And that's the intention of the first season. They want you to get to the end of the tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel last thing I guess on the whole is that it was a smarter narrative than the emotional narrative of season one. And emotional narrative is not bad. I just felt like I liked there was a different approach to a season. I really respected it and I really appreciated it. So honestly, at the end of the day, I think I like season two. It's kind of Stranger Things effect, right? I like it. I like season two more than the original season, but the original season it really built momentum, and when it gets to a certain point, it's really good.
Sure.
I was definitely feeling 13 Reasons Why season two. I liked it.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, folks. I don't really want to end on a clever joke here, so let's just all take a moment and acknowledge Justin Prentice as the kind, funny guy that he is, because my God, is he a good actor. Am I right, Dragon?
Yes.
All right. God bless you, Justin